Seeing if we're live here. See what's going on. And we are live. Good morning, everybody. It is 8:01 here in the greater New York metropolitan area, and the time has expired on the UFC 257 weigh-ins. A lot happened in that 2-hour span, aside from the fact that I was trying to wake up so I can do this fakakta thing. If you've never seen me before on your screens, I'm Matt Ryan. Hi, for those who watch our UFC live shows across the Combat Culture Network. We'll be live tomorrow night for UFC 257 live across the Combat Culture Network around 9:45 Eastern Time during the last prelim. But before we can get to the last prelim, we have to get into what happened this morning here on Combat Culture at UFC 257. As of now, we have one fight on the main card canceled, one fighter did not show up to weigh-ins, and two fighters missed weight. Those fighters who missed weight were Khalil Rountree and Arman Tsarukyan. Tsarukyan weighed in at 159 pounds, so 4 pounds over 155 and 3 pounds over the 156 threshold to not officially miss weight at lightweight. And Khalil Rountree has an extra hour to lose a half a pound to get down to 206 to be on weight for tomorrow's fight. It's a prelim fight, but we have one fight off the card. Ottman Azaitar will not be fighting tomorrow night on pay-per-view. Matt Frevola did weigh in. His initial opponent, he weighed in at 155.5, so he is on weight for tomorrow. The top four fighters tomorrow night are the ones who will be in action. It's Ottman, Conor McGregor, and Dustin Poirier. McGregor weighing in first on Friday morning here in New York, and weighing in second was Dustin Poirier, both of them weighing in at 156 pounds on the scale today. The co-main event, Dan Hooker and Michael Chandler. A lot of people talking about this basically being a mini eliminator tournament for the lightweight title. Khabib Nurmagomedov is still considered the UFC lightweight champion. Dana White just kind of dangling the carrot of a Khabib return above everybody's head, and the potential of a Khabib-Conor rematch, which is not happening. I'm sorry, guys, but it's not going to happen. I love you all. I love you all so very much, and I'm glad to be with you here in this early part of the day. But yeah, this fight isn't happening. This fight isn't happening. Khabib and Conor 2 will not happen. It's not going to happen for a long time, if it ever does happen. And this fight right now, I have no idea why Poirier-McGregor isn't for the lightweight title. This fight should be for the lightweight title, but for whatever reason, it's not. It's not going to be. And the Chandler Hooker fight is the co-main event. So a lot of people are thinking this is going to be a mini tournament with these four fighters to decide who gets that title. Justin Gaethje probably has a problem with that. Max Holloway definitely would have a problem with that, but right now they're on the outside looking in at 155 pounds. So all four of them on weight: McGregor, Poirier, Hooker, and Chandler at 156 even across the board. Joanne Calderwood and Jessica I both coming in at 126 pounds each. And then Marina Rodriguez and Amanda Ribas both coming in at 116 pounds. Arman Tsarukyan came in at 159, as we said before. Nasrat Haqparast did not show up to the weigh-ins, has not shown up as of yet. I will be keeping track of that on the Twitter machine. And also you can check the entire list of weights, everybody who's weighed in so far, and what their weights are over at MMAmania.com or BloodyElbow.com. We're streaming across the Combat Culture Network this morning. And if you got any questions, let us know in the chat. We'll be answering your questions as best we can this early in the morning. I am awake, and I do not like it. I am not up usually at this time of the day. Ever since the world's been locked down, I've been trying my best to sleep until I need to wake up. Like, there's that idea of, waking up to get ready and go to work, And then there's the idea of just getting up, making sure you're at your computer to just start your day. That's where I've been since, like, May. Maybe even before that. I just kind of gave up on the idea of a morning routine that doesn't involve walking my dog and drinking coffee since the start of this lockdown. But, you know, the lockdown now really doesn't matter on Fight Island because there will be fans tomorrow night. You will actually hear and see fans during the UFC 257 broadcast that started last week for the Max Holloway fight against Calvin Kattar. They allowed fans inside the Etihad Arena. It's not in the Fight Island complex anymore. It's actually in the arena where they've had fights. So it's going to be interesting, that energy and that crowd, especially for Conor and Poirier, because they're going to be a lot. I don't know how this crowd's going to take to Conor McGregor. They're probably going to love him because Conor McGregor's the biggest star in this sport, especially since Khabib retired. But the question for me right now is where does this go from here at 156 pounds or 155 pounds? McGregor at 155, pardon me, he said championship weight. I'm reading this wrong because the text is really small. Of course I look like that, Rob Parker said. Yeah, of course I do. It's 8 o'clock in the fucking morning. What do you want from me? I'm drinking coffee. We're 10 months into a lockdown. Shout out to Dave Mannion, my man. Rob Parker calling me a fat piece of shit. Well, yeah, I am. It's okay, sweetheart. I'm here. I'm getting paid to do this. You're watching me, so I love you. But taking a look at the fights for tomorrow night, then shout out to Dave Mannion. Check out his punch and parlay over at SBR, sportsbookreview.com. Great website. They also take very good care of me. I'm like CNN, so I'm delivering news? What? This guy is having some fun this morning. Usually when we're on the late night show, when we're doing the UFC live pay-per-view cards, we have people from all walks of life, all political backgrounds. We all have fun. We treat it like a party. I usually have vodka in my hands. This morning it's coffee, but let's take a look at some of the fights heading into tomorrow. We're going to talk about the main card. If you want to learn more about the prelims for tomorrow night, head on over to MMAmania.com and BloodyElbow.com. Jesse Holland and the gang at Mania and all the great people over at Bloody Elbow will be breaking it down for you over there. We're going to start the card tomorrow night with Marina Rodriguez and Amanda Ribas. Rodriguez, the last time we saw her inside the octagon, she lost a split decision to Carla Esparza. Before that, she had a draw with Cynthia Calvillo, which was her second UFC draw. The first was against Randa Marcos in 2018. But Rodriguez is no slouch. She's got wins over Tisha Torres and Jessica Aguilar since joining the UFC. Every fight Rodriguez has had has gone to the distance in the UFC. Her last finish was in 2018 when she was on the Contender Series in Brazil when she finished Maria de Oliveira, Neta. So, going up against someone in Ribas, both of these fighters only have one loss on their record, but for Esparza, it's her most recent fight. So, you gotta wonder how that will affect her. She was 12-0 heading into her last fight. Now she's got that one. Will that make her stronger? Will that affect her strategy once she gets inside the cage? That's going to be the big question for me for Rodriguez tomorrow night. But for Ribas, she's on a 5-fight winning streak. The big feather in her cap, though, was sending Paige Van Zandt packing from the UFC in their fight last year, sending her to the Bare Knuckle Fighting Championship. Van Zandt, obviously, going to BKFC in one of the weirdest MMA pieces of news of 2020. I don't think many people expected that once that rumor started floating, but now she's over there. She's going to be fighting on Super Bowl weekend, which is Knuckle Mania, I believe is what they're calling it over at BKFC. If you want us to cover that card, if you want us to be live for that, let us know in the chat ski below, or let us know at MMA Mania or at Bloody Elbow. You can follow me or troll me on Twitter at MRyanConsulting. That's MRyanConsulting on Twitter. So Ribas got a first-round armbar submission back at UFC 251. That's the last time we saw her sending Paige Van Zandt packing. But she has a win over common opponent Randa Marcos, who got that draw against Calvillo in 2018. She also has wins over Mackenzie Dern and Emily Whitmire since joining the UFC just about 3 years ago. Ribas' only loss was when she was fighting in Jungle Fight. Me and Dave were talking about this yesterday on SBR. It was a knockout against Poliana Viana back in Brazil. Ribas has 3 knockout wins, 4 submission wins, 3 decision wins. If you're looking to put a little on this, I don't know. This one, I'd probably side. Right now, I'm siding with Ribas. That may change, but who knows? I think Ribas has the edge heading into this fight with that win. She's on a 5-fight win streak. That's a big momentum shift right there, where Rodriguez is dealing with her first loss and Ribas riding high. So Rodriguez has to be locked in if she's looking to pull off the win tomorrow night. And as we said at the top of the show, Matt Frevola and Ottman Azaitar has been canceled. Aaron Bronstetter reported something that he quickly deleted about Frevola fighting tomorrow night once we get a little bit more clarity. Or if you have that in the chat, let us know your thoughts and let us know what's going on. Tucker, what's going on, buddy? This Rob Parker guy is just busy today. He's got nothing going on. Much like me, nothing going on at 8 o'clock in the morning. But second fight that we know of for the main card is Jessica Eye versus Joanne Calderwood. Eye, a professional wrestler trained in Ohio, but now, well, obviously fought MMA, did a little pro wrestling on the independent scene, like I did, but now back in MMA. Her last fight was back in June, a decision loss to Cynthia Calvillo. She's 4-2 in her last 6 as Eye with a loss to Valentina Shevchenko at UFC 238. But she picked up wins against Vivian Araujo, Caitlin Chukagian, and Jessica Rose Clark on that run. The 3 of those 4 wins, all of them by decision. But earlier in her career, I think Jessica Eye is a streaky fighter. This is a hard fight for me to predict because Jessica Eye was on a 4-fight losing streak at one point, but going up against top-flight contenders like Betch Correia, Sara McMann, who's on tomorrow's prelim card, Julianna Pena, and Miesha Tate, all those fights, though, went to decision. So if you're looking at Eye getting finished, she's only been knocked out once, only submitted once, and the other 6 of her losses have come by way of decision. So she's someone who's in there for the full 15 minutes, refuses to get out of there. 9 of her last 10 fights, all but 1 of her last 10 fights, went to a decision. So if you're looking at this fight tomorrow night, I know Dave Mannion, my buddy, loves JoJo Calderwood and is looking at her, but she's coming off a loss as well to Jennifer Maia back in August by submission. Joanne is 1-2 in her last 3 fights with a loss to Caitlin Chukagian at UFC 238 and her most recent win against Andrea Lee at 242. Both of those by decision. Calderwood, a 7-year vet of the UFC, been a part of the organization since 2014, and has notable losses to Jessica Andrade and Cynthia Calvillo, but wins over Casey Letourneau and Ariana Lipsky. In this fight, I don't know what you guys think. I'd love to hear your predictions in the chat. Sanad Burka saying, love MMA like this guy's sweating from talking about it. I'm not sweating. I'm just greasy because it's 8 o'clock in the morning and I didn't wash my face. I didn't get pretty for you guys, and I'm sorry. I'm sorry that I didn't get pretty for you. My hair's a mess. I'm a mess. That's just kind of my thing. Max Mutterman asking, where was Nasrat Haqparast? We don't know. He may have left Abu Dhabi. He may have done a reverse normal. I'm not sure. But hopefully somewhere out there knows where he is, and hopefully he has all of his pants. I don't know why he wouldn't, but at this point, what the hell's going on with him? But love to know your thoughts on Eye and Calderwood and the rest of this card. If you got predictions, let us know in the chat below. Let us know what you think's going to happen on Saturday night. And right now we're at the co-main. Taking a look at the chat here. Guybrush Threepwood, JoJo going to get battered, unfortunately. Too brittle. Age could be a factor. Experience could be a factor there. This is a hard fight to choose because both of these fighters have been in the UFC for a minute now. And it's really hard to kind of delineate who's going to... It's hard for me to pick when it's 2 vets coming off of losses with certain weird streaks and some similar opponents. There's smarter people out there in the MMA world who can give a more concise breakdown to how they think they're going to get a winner. But for me, I think this fight is either going to be 3 rounds and a cloud of dust or just a out-and-out brawl. I don't know how it's going to go. I don't know. I think this fight stays standing. If it goes all 3 rounds, which it probably would, it's probably going to stay standing. You're going to see I try to shoot for a submission at one point, but I think Calderwood's going to try to keep it standing, keep the momentum on her side, and just try to sneak by. I think someone's going to try to sneak by with 10-9s each round, doing just enough to get by their opponent, but we don't know how things are going to go until both fighters are locked inside the cage. And now this next fight, I got a little bit of shit for this yesterday by my friends over at SBR. Dan Hooker versus Michael Chandler, because I picked Michael Chandler. I picked Michael Chandler to win this fight because of his record outside of the UFC. Jane Gum 138 on the Twitter machine saying 99% about it GTS, but I like JoJo. And then, you know, I don't fault people for JoJo. Guybrush saying, give me a job when I'm right. I'm not in charge of that. I barely have a job here. They let me mop sometimes, and then once a month I kind of just steal the internet and go on the air here. I'm just sitting here with a cup of coffee and a fucking ring light trying to make shit pop here. So if you can do that, you know, you can probably get here. But Hooker versus Chandler is the co-main event for tomorrow night. It's a 3-round fight, unless Dana decides to change his mind, which, you know, who the fuck knows. They gave Khalil Rountree another hour to weigh in, so the rules of the Abu Dhabi Athletic Commission is an interesting sort. But Dan Hooker coming off a win against Dustin Poirier a loss to Dustin Poirier back in June via decision. Prior to that, he knocked out in succession. He knocked out James Vick, and he got Paul Felder and Al Iaquinta in decisions. He's on a 3-fight losing streak. In his career, Hooker has lost to Edson Barbosa, Jason Knight, Yair Rodriguez, and Maximo Blanco. All of those losses by way of decision, at least inside the UFC. All 3 of his losses have been by decision. He's rarely been stopped. He's only been knocked out once. He's only tapped twice. And wins against, you know, Gilbert Burns, knocked out Jim Miller, made Mark Diakase tap, got this knocked out Ian Entwistle, Hatsu Hikori, and Ross Pearson since joining the UFC. So we've seen the evolution of Dan Hooker inside the octagon, fighting tougher opponents, going up against high-level mixed martial artists, and I think that Poirier loss shows that Hooker can fight with the elite. I just don't know if he's at that level yet. And we can ask the same question of Chandler. Chandler's been around for a long time. He's in his mid-30s. He's a former 3-time Bellator lightweight champion. His most recent loss of that belt was to Patricio Pitbull. But Chandler, the last time we saw him, was fighting in Bellator back in August of 2020, where he knocked out Benson Henderson. Now you're thinking it's an older Benson Henderson, but still, knocking out Benson Henderson it matters. It matters because you're knocking out a former champion, you're knocking out a smart fighter, a former elite fighter. Yeah, he's in his post-peak, but we're going to see him against a guy in Dan Hooker to where we think this is his peak, but does that match somebody of a Michael Chandler? Because Chandler beat Brent Primus. He beat Eddie Alvarez for the title. He beat a prime Eddie Alvarez for the title. And he beat a Pitbull brother, Patricky Pitbull, twice. There was some argument the Pitbull brothers didn't necessarily like the way one of those losses went. But you live by the sword, you die by the sword. And Chandler's knocked out 9 opponents, 7 submission wins, 5 by decision, which is almost identical to Hooker, who's knocked out 10 opponents, made 7 tap, and won 3 by decision. And for Chandler, he's never been submitted, never been tapped. So he's going to try to keep this. He might be trying to keep this fight standing, or he might try to take this fight to the ground. Dave Mannion made a great point yesterday on SBR. He's an elite level wrestler. He's someone who can utilize his wrestling to work on someone like Dan Hooker. And Hooker's tapped twice. Chandler's never been submitted. He's been knocked out 3 times. He's been beaten twice by decision. So the deeper this fight goes, the better it is for Michael Chandler, because he's 5-2 in his career on the scorecard. So if you're Chandler's camp, you're thinking, how do we extend this fight to 3 rounds? How do we keep our distance? How do we make sure that Dan Hooker doesn't go for the chin, doesn't go for the knockout, isn't able to land that punch that can send Chandler down and completely send everything tits up. And another conversation is the Ben Askren effect. This is another high-level free agent coming in after their supposed peak. Are they going to be able to live up to the expectations and the hype that have been coming from us in the media, fans of Chandler, fans of mixed martial arts outside of the UFC, and everyone who's been wanting to see Chandler make the jump for years? Was this the right time? Has the ship sailed? Is Chandler going to be able to compete at an elite level at 155 in the UFC? Those are all the questions heading into tomorrow night, and we had those same questions about Ben Askren. His initial fight was a little fakakta with the bulldog choke, and then got sent away on a barge after Jorge Masvidal sent his soul into another stratosphere, and then he jobbed out one more time in Asia in 2019 and decided to walk away, and now is calling out YouTubers to box, which you know what? Get your money. Get your money, Ben Askren. You could kick my ass. I know you could kick my ass. But it's more of a conversation of where do these fighters land in divisions like welterweight for Ben Askren or for the UFC, where, at lightweight in the UFC, where there's so much talent, there's so much depth. Is it the big fish, little pond syndrome for Chandler? I don't think so. I think Chandler's going to find a way to get a win, but that's going to be the conversation on Saturday that I'm going to be bringing up during the show. Stephanie Sotilli will be moderating. Harry Turjani will be there along with us. Maybe Danny White will be there. We don't know. I've heard he's trying to inaugurate himself the president of kick punching. He finally got CNN, so he's excited. Toker88, Hooker, picking Hooker. Shout out to Bailey Griffin. He's a big Hooker fan from Australia. Seems like a natural. Jane Gum, any concern in Chandler's step up in competition? Now, that's the big question. We talked about it before, but he fought Eddie Alvarez, even though that might feel like a million years ago. This is a must-win for Hooker. Q saying, just bring back the Diaz brothers. Brother, if I could make that happen, I have been imploring for the Diaz brothers to come back ever since that fight at the Garden ended. There are a lot of unanswered questions with the Diaz brothers. There's a lot of questions just overall in the UFC, but they mostly are based around the Diaz brothers. I don't know. The Diaz brothers are the only ones who can unite the world. What are they, Captain fucking Planet? I would go for a Captain Planet reboot starring Nate Diaz, where it's just him smoking pot and punching people in the face. I think that would be leftists who will whoop you. Yes, we need more of those. We need more leftists who will whoop you. Q dropping some gems in there. Oh, Q drops. They're Q drops. Toker 88. Yes, the Diaz brothers bring the crazy. And do we need more crazy in MMA? I don't know. I don't know. If we do, let me know in the chat if you think we need more crazy in mixed martial arts. I'm not sure. I feel like it'd be a great idea. I feel like it'd be a fun time for everybody. But the weigh-ins have ended. This is the UFC 257 Combat Culture preview show starring Matt Ryan, that's me, drinking coffee way too early for me in the morning, just trying to see if there's any updates on the weigh-ins. Nasrat Haqparast is not shown up yet. He is still not shown up. Taking a look at the rest of the weigh-ins. Well, before we go to the main event's the thing you're all wanting to talk about, so I'm going to hold on it just a little bit. I'm going to do a radio tease. We'll wait until the top of the quarter hour once we get half past the hour here. As you can tell, a lot of manic energy from me today because I am 2 cups of coffee in and I am a-zoomin'. Taking a look at the bottom of our prelim card, Makhmud Muradov came in at 186, same as his opponent Andrew Sanchez. Zagalas Zumagulov at 126, and Emil Albazi also at 126. And our final live early prelim, Nick Lentz and Movsar Evloev both are at 150 pounds at a catchweight fight. They agreed to change that fight. As said before, Khalil Rountree at 206.5 pounds. He has 1 hour, so basically up until 9 o'clock or a little before 9:30 here on the Eastern Standard Time Zone to get down to 206 or to 205, so he has half a pound to lose. He'll face off against Marcin Prachnio, who weighed in at exactly 205 pounds. Sara McMann, who I mentioned earlier, came in at 135 pounds to go up against Julianna Pena, who came to the scale at 136 pounds. At a 185, fight Brant Tavares at 185.5. Antonio Carlos Jr. coming in at exactly 185. And Arman Tsarukyan missed weight at 159, as we said earlier. Marina Rodriguez at 116. Same with Amanda Ribas. As said at the start of the show, in case you missed it, Matt Frevola came in on weight at 155.5, but Ottman Azaitar, which due to what looked like on social media a very poor weight cut, he did not look good in a photo I saw on Twitter. Dave letting us know Muradov making the move to the main card. So Muradov's fight going from the first fight of the prelims to the first fight on the main card. So Makhmud Muradov going up against Andrew Sanchez. We'll start our card on UFC 257 on pay-per-view tomorrow night. Thank you so much, Dave. I love you, buddy. I'll be seeing you next Wednesday for the next one. And taking a look at Jessica I and Joanne Calderwood, both at 126 pounds. And as I said at the top of the show, Hooker and Chandler, Poirier and McGregor, all coming in on weight. Hooker and Chandler at 156, same with Poirier. And Conor McGregor at 155 pounds on the bucket. So that's where the weigh-ins stand right now. As we get closer and closer, we are just over 36 hours from UFC 257 live. And we'll be streaming all of the conversation. We'll be watching along with you tomorrow night, right here on Combat Culture, or wherever you're watching us, on Bloody Elbow's YouTube channel, on the MMA Mania's YouTube channel, and also on Facebook and Periscope for MMA Mania and Bloody Elbow. Only on Periscope for MMA Mania, and shout out to the people or the person on Twitch watching along right now and watching along tomorrow night. We're excited to bring it along with you. We're excited to be a part of your community and a part of your watching habits for UFC 257. We'll be calling all the main card matches. I will be getting progressively drunk as the show goes on, as is tradition. Let me know, guys, in the chat if I should buy a bottle of Proper 12 for tomorrow, or should I just stick with the wild turkey that I have in my bar at home? Let me know your thoughts, or let me know on Twitter. Follow me on Twitter at MRyanConsulting. That's MRyanConsulting on Twitter. Let's take a look at the chat really quick. Q saying, I don't know who you are, but I love this energy. It's frenetic, manic energy, and my dog is currently having her neck propped up, looking like a giraffe, wondering what the hell is going on, mainly because it is the start of the day in our household. Toker88 saying, I want Porker, but if money's on the line, I'm going to go Conor. I think he meant Poirier. Smart type is the devil. It is the devil. Jane Gum 138 saying, seeing the Diaz brothers come back would be like the Four Horsemen coming back in their prime. All right, hold on. This is a question for the chat. Who is the MMA Four Horsemen? Who's the Flair? Who's the Tully? Who's the Arn? And who is the catch-all? Barry Windham, Ole Anderson, Lex Luger. You can let us know in the chat. Who is the Four Fingers? The standard of excellence in mixed martial arts. The Diaz brothers against Arn and Tully would be a hell of a fight. I would watch that. I would pay good money to see that. Let me know in the chat or let me know on Twitter. And now for the fight you all gave a shit about. The reason why you're here is Conor McGregor returning to the octagon in a rematch against Dustin Poirier. Whoo, baby. Tiny Dong is in the chat. Love you, Ty. Good to see you, friend. Drink what you like and like what you drink, Maddie. I'm going to hit the Bushmills. Ooh, Bushmills is pretty solid. And now whiskey chat at 8 o'clock in the morning. This is turning into a friend of Bill W meeting. I had some of that Proper 12, and it really isn't any smoother than Jameson, Q says. Bullet is a better buy. So Q, wink, says Bullet is a better buy. The official drink of Q, Bullet Bourbon. Philip Brown saying Poirier looks big. Yeah, He's looking good for 155. Conor, too. Conor looking very chiseled, looking very on weight. That is the Conor McGregor. Like, this, I said it yesterday on the show, a focused Conor McGregor is the most dangerous weapon in mixed martial arts. Because we saw in the Nurmagomedov fight, he wasn't focused. He was in the middle of his salad days following the fight against Mayweather. That lack of clarity, that lack of focus, guardrail throwing, proper 12 drinking, phone throwing, arrest making, old man punching McGregor is gone, at least for now. Once the world opens back up, we don't know what the hell anybody's going to be doing. Who knows, we don't even know what we're going to do, let alone someone else with hundreds of millions of dollars and basically all the whiskey he can get into his body. So we don't know what that's going to be for Conor McGregor. We don't know if he's going to look into boxing again. We might know, if he retires for the 87th time. He says he has 4 fights left on his UFC contract. Dana White thinks he's going to fight multiple times this year. A few people think he's going to fight 3 times this year. Don't know if that's actually going to happen. We got, David in the chat. Israel Adesanya, Volkanovski, Hooker, and Riddle. The 4 horsemen of MMA. Interesting. I like that. That's a solid one. I think Conor's Flair, though. I think Conor McGregor's the closest thing we have to Ric Flair in mixed martial arts, because the man's all about dressing, watches, cutting promos, and naching. The man naches as good as Ric Flair. If you don't know what naching is, use the Google machine and look that up. BP saying Nick Lentz to upset Movsar. I'm not sure what that means. Billy Niazi saying, so what happened to Nasrat and Arman? Nasrat just gone. No one knows where he is. It's turned into a what happened to Aunt Diane situation. No one knows where he is. No one knows what's going on. This is probably going to be a weird fight. This is going to be a weird situation. And I kind of want to see Dana White dressed up as the great mouse detective going around Fight Island to see what exactly is going on. James Gum saying, give me GSP and Couture versus Tully and Ard. Yo, brother, that's some good shit right there. David Mannion saying, Connor, Artem, John, and Roddy. It said, Nick, BP, you gotta ask in a full question. Using emojis, you can't. He's laughing at me for not understanding what he said as my dog begins to bite my pants, letting me know I'm not funny anymore. Dad, stop it. You're being annoying. But let's break down this fight just a skosh, because everybody wants to talk about this fight and everybody wants to give predictions. Poirier coming off a win against Dan Hooker back in June. But before that, the last time we saw him was at 242 in Abu Dhabi. So he's 0-1 in Abu Dhabi for the lightweight title against Khabib. So both Poirier and McGregor's last losses came against Khabib Nurmagomedov. But in the last couple of fights, Poirier's got wins over Max Holloway twice, Eddie Alvarez, Justin Gaethje, Anthony Pettis, Jim Miller, and, he's knocked out 12 people. He's submitted 7 decision wins. He's 7-2 when you go to the scorecards. He's only been tapped twice and knocked out twice. One of them being against Conor McGregor back at UFC 178 in 2014. So this is a fight over 6 years in the making. And the last time we saw Conor was knocking out Donald Cerrone with shoulder strikes at UFC 246, the first pay-per-view of 2019 in the pre-dark times. Lost to Khabib at the Riot that was known as UFC 229. 0-1 against Khabib, 1-0 against guardrails as Conor McGregor. He's undefeated against fighting any moving vehicle, primarily buses, but that's not a stat that you'll see tomorrow night in the tail of the tape. Obviously, defeated Eddie Alvarez and Nate Diaz prior to the fight against Conor. Wins over Max Holloway, Jose Aldo for the featherweight title, Chad Mendes, obviously Dustin Poirier, as said before, the first double champion in UFC history. You guys know this. You know who Conor McGregor is. He's the biggest star in the sport, one of the biggest stars in sports. He's got 19 wins by knockout, 1 submission win, and only 2 wins by decision. He's been submitted 4 times. The interesting thing of all of this is Conor McGregor has only gone the distance in his career twice. He has only seen the scorecards twice. So we know he has the stamina to go the distance. We didn't see that in the Khabib fight, but that was because Conor McGregor was not focused. He was not on his game. That wasn't the Conor McGregor we knew at that time to be inside the octagon, and we've seen a revitalization and a refocus of Conor McGregor, which I think is dangerous for Dustin Poirier. Because Poirier could be confident, he could be on top of his game, but when Conor McGregor is locked in, it is hard for anyone to beat him unless you get the jump on him, as we saw with Diaz, as we saw with Khabib. But the deeper this fight goes, I think Conor McGregor has the advantage. Philip Brown asking what time is it in the U.S. now? Well, in New York, it's 8:36 in the morning. Q saying, I miss GSP. That was such a fun era. Yeah, early to mid 2000s to early 2010s MMA was astoundingly entertaining because it was the weird period where the UFC was successful, but media training and social media weren't a thing yet. So it was still just straight up cowboy shit. Like, Tank Abbott could still roam the earth freely. He wouldn't fight in the UFC, but he would get the opportunity to, if given. Philip Brown saying, McGregor shaving his head makes him technically more aerodynamic, which is true. You know, you just make his swimmer... it helps with swimming. I don't know about face punching. I'm not necessarily sure. But let us know in the chat your predictions for tomorrow night at UFC 257. Let us know if you're voting for Conor McGregor, if you're voting for Dustin Poirier. No Dominion systems here. Wink, ha 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 ha. Funny, funny, funny. But I want to know who you predict for tomorrow night's fight at UFC 257 live on pay-per-view. And also here on Combat Culture, we'll be live with an actual set. We will build our set. The set is on the other side of me right now. And there is just a couch and an end table. But we will be building the set, and we will be live with a fancier camera and a fancier set. Just not me in front of my fucking bookshelf. But we'll be live tomorrow night at 9:45 Eastern during the final prelim of UFC 257. Once again, replacing the Matt Frevola fight on the card is... Muradov's fight. So the Muradov fight will now be on the main card. Toker88 predicting Conor. Bailey Griffin, thoughts on Volkanovski? My favorite fighter ever. Even met him once. That's pretty cool that you got to meet him. I think Volkanovski's a great fighter. Right now, the elite in the UFC, I think the UFC, in terms of athletes, is the best it's ever been. In terms of star power, I equate it to the ruthless aggression era for our WWE fans out there. You have established stars like Conor. You have established stars like Jon Jones who are carrying their divisions. You have a Max Holloway. You have Amanda Nunes. But there's still a power vacuum. Israel Adesanya is on the come up. Pardon me, my sinuses. He's on, whether Israel Adesanya on the come up, he's going to be a big asset. Kamaru Usman. It's about developing those fighters into draws. I think Kamaru Usman is going to be the draw in the UFC in the next 5 years, dependent on what Conor McGregor does next. But I think Kamaru Usman and Jon Jones will be the definitive faces of the UFC alongside Amanda Nunes in the next 5 years if Amanda doesn't decide to retire and just enjoy her life with her wife and child. Like, I'm not against that. But there's a need for more stars, especially in the women's divisions. We have Amanda Nunes, we have Joanna Jędrzejczyk, we have Weili Zhang, and Rosnama Yunus, but there needs to be more depth and more competition in terms of star power in those divisions, in those weight classes. Internationally, the women's MMA in UFC, the women's divisions, are carrying strong because it's such a diverse class of athletes, a diverse crop of athletes. But here in the United States, and this is kind of traditional when it comes to women's sports, women's competition across the world trends better than it does in the United States. But as we've seen with the U.S. women's soccer team and what we've seen in the women's evolution of professional wrestling, primarily in the WWE over the past few years, there is a quality and there is money and there is a market for it in the United States. It's just all about delivering depth. It's all about delivering the Ronda Rousey effect is obviously missing from women's MMA right now. And you can argue she's a once-in-a-generation star, but the time is coming for a new star, and a lot of people, Macy Barber thinks it's going to be her. There's quite a few fighters who think that's going to be them, but the time is better than ever to go and take that crown, be the face of women's MMA. There's a lot of people vying for it, but who's going to be the definitive face? It could be Jędrzejczyk, it could be Nunes, it could be Valentina Shevchenko. Valentina Shevchenko is a killer, but who's going to be the draw that sells pay-per-views? Nunes is in that conversation. Jake Paul saying he doesn't know who she is. He can go fuck himself. Double S asking, Kamaru Usman? Lol. I think he is. I think this is great. I think so. Philip Brown saying, I wish MMA was as big as soccer. Soccer's got like a 150 to 200 year head start on MMA. And mixed martial arts is a 27-year-old sport. I know, Olive. I know. I wish it was more popular too. But it's a 27-year-old sport, so it has the time. It has time. In that 27 years, it has gone from peak to relative obscurity to peak and then a bigger peak. And right now, we're riding high on that. And I think the growth of the sport internationally has done more. I think MMA is more like soccer than it is American football. Because the growth of the game internationally, or even like the NBA, it has become a huge driver of sports across the globe because it taps into so many different sports and so many different combat disciplines that you're seeing a growth in that. And you're seeing the growth of people training in mixed martial arts and training in combat sports. It's a huge part of all of this. I have to give my dog a toy because she's being a fussy baby. That's the fun part of broadcasting live from your house in the middle of the afternoon is you have to treat your fussy baby with respect and care. That's a good thing for all you dog people out there. Give your dog a toy; they will love you forever, especially if it's a stuffed one, because they will destroy it. FSM Eagle asking, what happened to Nasrat? We don't know. We don't know. Where is Nasrat? It's turning the where in the world is Nasrat? I don't know. Jane Gums saying, I miss Ronda in her prime. She should be on the Mount Rushmore for just bringing women's MMA to the front. You can make the same argument for Gina Carano, and that's, all I want to talk about regarding the Gina Carano. I'm also not a big fan of Mount Rushmores because you have to identify things based on time period, based on era, based on factors that aren't comparable from generation to generation. Trying to compare Jim Brown and Ezekiel Elliott is not an easy conversation. I prefer Jim Brown, but they're once-in-a-generation athletes, but the comparisons kind of end when you look at the type of sport they were in at the time. It's the same sport, but it's different. So that's why I'm never a big fan of Mount Rushmore arguments in sports, because it's really hard to definitively decide one way or another, and there's so much bias in that. It's turned into a fucking morning show. Dave Mannion, Dana is taking the soccer blueprint. Worldwide domination. Rudy Giuliani destroyed the growth of MMA for so long. It wasn't Rudy Giuliani. For those who don't know, MMA in New York State has only been legal for about 4 years, 3 or 4 years, just about 2017 before we were opened up in the state. But when you're looking at the growth of mixed martial arts in New York State, the blame is on Sheldon Silver, who just got pardoned for reasons I don't fucking understand, and the New York State legislature because of the Fertittas, who used to own the UFC, having issues with the restaurant union, who had Sheldon Silver locked, stocked, and 2 smoking barrels on their side, and they were fighting against it for years. But finally, common sense and Andrew Cuomo came to save the day, and now we have mixed martial arts in my home state, and it's a great thing. Don't have to go to the Prudential Center anymore and take that long path ride back. I can just walk down to the Barclays Center, which is like 20 minutes from my house, which is fantastic. Taking a look at the chat here. It's really where's Aldo? Where's Aldo? I would buy that instead of where's Waldo. Where's Aldo? I would watch that. I would be. Shout out to RJ. He said shout out Idol. Oh, Rudy Giuliani is a piece of garbage. I'm not caping for him. I'm just giving context. The hearings, Rudy. Look, my understanding on Rudy Giuliani regarding MMA, I should know a little bit more about that. But you know what? Send me a link on Twitter about those hearings. M Ryan Consulting on Twitter, exactly. And talking about the Four Horsemen argument, I think it's just a fun comparison game in terms of personalities. Instead of Mount Rushmore's where you're trying to definitively give the top of each. And thank you, RJ. Much appreciated. But Q, if you've got any of that stuff, let me know. Shoot me a note on the Twitter machine. M Ryan Consulting is the Twitter handle. You can also follow us at MMA Mania and MMA a Bloody Elbow on the Twitter machine. Tiny Dong, let me know on the Twitter. Better stock up on some whiskey. You're looking a wee bit low. Not sure if tomorrow's going to be a Tullamore Dew or a Black Bush night. Tullamore Dew. I've heard that name so many times that I've never had it. I think I might have to try it. If you got whiskey suggestions, let me know on Twitter at MRyan Consulting. And let me know if you like this. If you want us to keep doing these shows. If you like an MMA morning show hosted by me, my dog, and a cup of coffee, please let us know. If you like it and they want to keep paying me for it, I definitely will do it. Let them know on Twitter at MMA Mania and Bloody Elbow specifically. And we're live on Combat Culture, but to kind of summate here, this fight tomorrow night means a lot for the UFC. Not only does it solidify Conor McGregor that as the biggest star at 155, we don't know if Dana's gonna pull a surprise and make this a title fight in the last, because Khabib says he's not coming back. Dana thinks he's coming back. It's like when Dad went out for cigarettes and just never came home. Did that happen to me? Probably. Am I taking it out on Dana White? Possibly. But that's for me and just for me to know. Yeah, it's kind of the truth, but beyond that. Double S saying, Matt, is there an up-and-comer you really like to see as a potential world champion? Right now, the elite class of MMA is kind of just where everything is. I don't really think there's one specific up-and-comer. If you've got someone in the chat, let me know. Let me know if you have someone that you think would be a great world champion in the UFC or MMA. I'd love to see Rose Namajunas get another run. Brian Blaze saying, I only want Khabib to come back for GSP. That's the fight. Like, I'd love to see a Conor rematch. Definitely would love to see a Conor rematch. I'd love to call a Conor Khabib match. I wasn't hosting the streams at that time. I wasn't even working for SB Nation at the time. But I'd love the opportunity to see that fight again. I think Khabib GSP is a great match. Toker88, love the MMA morning show. Gets me more hyped for its time. I'm not going to do that because I don't want Bruce to sue me. Yes, Olive, I know. Daddy is plotting. I get it. But this is now the MMA morning show or the UFC 257 preview show. I'm Matt Ryan. That's Olive the dog. Who wants a toy that's underneath. Shimiev, that's a great one, Jane Gung. Shimiev is a great one. I think there's a lot in him. Aljamain Sterling. Yeah, Aljamain Sterling, that's the guy. That's the guy for me. That is a great, great call. David Mannion. And follow him on Twitter. It's DMannion_. That's DMANYUN_. Make sure I get that right. Yeah, DMANYUN_ on Twitter. Follow Dave. Stipe beats Francis Ngannou and Jones beats Stipe. Ooh, that's a big take there, Dave. I don't know. I think Ngannou, the Ngannou thing and the Conor question that I talked about before, the focus, that's my primary focus when it comes to a Stipe Ngannou rematch. The Ngannou we saw that had the hype train behind him, the pay-per-view marketing was all focused behind him. That pissed Stipe off. You don't want to piss Stipe off because then he's more focused, he's more concise, and he's going to come to ruin your life. Now it's going to be more balanced. I think Stipe is going to get the respect on his name that he deserves. But Ngannou is a more dangerous fighter than he was the last time he fought against Stipe. I think Stipe versus Jones is the fight for MMA fans, because then Jones says he beat Stipe. He did something that Cormier could only do once. He says he could do it again, and then we get the Rocky Balboa plot. Cormier in his restaurant, enjoying life as a commentator, just straight chilling, and then John Jones with the heavyweight title saying, "Come on back, Cormier. We gotta run it back one more time at 250, 255, and then the world will be set ablaze, because why the fuck not?" This cannot be a championship fight. Drew Jen says Dustin has already tipped the scales at 156. Who gives a damn? It's a pound. Who cares? If Conor wins, then you give him the 155 belt. Or, you know what? Give him an hour, let him cut a pound, and throw the fucking belt in there. Who cares about 1 pound? When you can have... If Dana said right now, if you dropped 1 pound in an hour, we'll make this a title fight, I think that sells 1 million more pay-per-views. Or at least another 500,000 if they make this a title fight. Because right now, nothing matters in sports until Sunday at 1 o'clock, when the NFC and AFC championship games happen. You're going to be doing yourself a disservice by not doing that if I'm Dana White. I don't know. It's probably not legal, but it's the UFC. Who gives a shit? Who honestly gives a shit? Double S saying Jones beats every heavyweight on the roster. That's a bold claim, my friend. That is a bold claim. It's going to be great to see John Jones enthusiastic about fighting again, because his last 2 fights at light heavyweight, the Dom Reyes fight and the fight before that, John Jones just was there. He pulled a Marshawn Lynch. He was there because he didn't want to get fined or get stripped of the belt for the 97th time. We'll rock with you until the top of the hour. Once it hits the top of the hour, we will be gone for the day, and we'll be back in about 12 hours and 45 minutes, 36 hours and 45 minutes for UFC's 257's live stream. If you don't know, I'm Matt Ryan. We're glad you're joining us here this morning across the Combat Culture Network. Hi, Olive. Hi, Honey Pie. Cyril Gagne has something to say. A Derek Lewis-John Jones fight could headline a pay-per-view. Let me know if you disagree in the chat. But I think a John Jones-Derek Lewis main event, 5-rounder, could main event a pay-per-view, and there's going to be people who take Derek Lewis. Am I one of them? No. Olive, don't bite my live from Skankfest DVD that you can get from Catalyst Wrestling for only $20 at Walmart.com. Don't do that. You should, if she does, you should buy me a new one, or buy yourself a new one. But that's pretty much, the heavyweight division right now is the most intriguing division outside of 155, because we have John Jones coming in, because we have so many different fighters making that level at heavyweight. Heavyweight's been the most maligned division in the UFC since Lesnar left. Stipe took it over. I'd say since the Kane and JDS wars, the heavyweight division's kind of been lacking. And that's not Stipe's fault, it's just a depth conversation. Now the heavyweight division actually is somewhat deep again, and we can actually enjoy the heavyweight division instead of it being a one-fighter division, which is the great thing about UFC now. There is depth at almost every single weight class, even flyweight. Flyweight was going to be dead about a year ago, but Davis and Figueiredo came in and saved it, headlining back-to-back pay-per-views that may not necessarily have been the biggest draws in the world, but hell, that main event, that last UFC main event, was fire. And if you want to see what I thought of it, go on to the archives on Combat Culture and watch back our live coverage of UFC 256 or UFC 255. Give a watch to any of them. If you have the pay-per-views on ESPN+, you can just play it along with us and watch the entire fights back along with me and Harry Turjanian on the call. And we'll be back tomorrow night at 10 p.m. If you got any questions before we wrap up here, please be sure to drop them in the chat. We're glad to be joined by all you guys. It's early here in the U.S. It's the middle of the day in the UK. It's 5 o'clock in Abu Dhabi. So we're just glad that people are awake and watching along with us. TW saying Conor can pay a fighter more to take a dive than the UFC can pay them to win. That's fair. That's a true statement, but I don't think that's happening. When Brazil used to have champions in multiple weight classes. Yep, that's pretty much it. Toker88, yeah, UFC 256 was a barn burner. That was an expected, that was a huge, that surpassed my expectations by a long shot. And Dave's right, yeah, Brazil, on Periscope, he's right. Most passionate MMA country on the planet is Brazil. And Brazil has just one big champion right now in the UFC, and it's Davison Figueiredo. So they're going to show up and show out for him. Unbroken 1010 saying, if I got paid $1 million, which one would you fool around with for a night? Good morning. Who? Between who? Who am I fooling around with? Batman? I don't know. There's some... The internet's a weird place, guys. The internet's a weird place. But, final wrap-up in terms of the weigh-ins. Just take a look at the news really quick. See if there's anything that changed. Philip Brown saying he hopes England has a champion in every weight class like Brazil did. English MMA is on the come-up. Dave Mannion can break it down for you much better than I do because he lives in the actual country. But, so this is as of an hour ago. For rumor has it, Nasrat Haqparast, I cannot pronounce that name and I apologize, is out of his fight with Arman Tsarukyan. Frevola will step in to fight Haqparast tomorrow night on UFC 257. So yeah, and for those complaining about the betting, I saw Jane Gum complaining about that. Yeah, that's a motherfucker to the bettors. But we're taking a look at the weigh-ins one more time. The early prelims for tomorrow night, Nick Lentz and Movsar Evloev are both at 150 in a catchweight fight. Amir Albazi and Zalaga Zumagulov, both coming in at 126. Khalil Rountree missed weight, and he'll be weighing in as soon as we're off the air. He's at 206.5 right now. He has to lose half a pound to not get penalized for his fight against Marcin Prachnio, who came in at 205 even. Sara McMann coming in at 135. Julianna Pena at 136. Brad Tavares at 185.5 against Antonio Carlos Jr., who came in at 185 even. Arman Tsarukyan came in at 159. Nasrat Haqparast maybe fighting Matt Frevola. That fight is up in the air at the moment, but stay tuned to MMAmania.com and BloodyElbow.com for the latest updates on that fight and the final main card for tomorrow night's pay-per-view. Starting off the main card, it'll be Makhmud Muradov and Andrew Sanchez fighting at 186 apiece at the middleweight division. Then we have Marina Rodriguez against Amanda Ribas, both coming in at 126. Jojo Calderwood and Jessica Ai coming in at 126 apiece. Dan Hooker and Michael Chandler in your co-main event of the evening coming in at 156. Conor McGregor at 155 on the button at championship weight, as he likes to say, against Dustin Poirier at 156 pounds. And you can get all those weigh-in results at MMAmania.com. Unbroken 1010 saying, still don't understand people that want to see Khabib versus GSP. It's like watching an old dog play with a puppy. It's the star fight, man. It's just the two toughest fighters, the two toughest outs in MMA facing each other. It's, it's a thing. Yeah, Darren Till yelled at a cop. I don't know why he did that, but yeah, Callum Hogan, is Frevola out? No, Frevola seems to be still on the card. It was his opponent who missed weight, Ottman Azaitar didn't even go to scale today because of what seemed to be an issue with his weight cut. TW is hilarious. Dustin accepted the bribe and they're rehearsing the fight like pro wrestling to make it look better than the Cerrone fix. TW, come on, man. Like, I know works. I work in a work business. It's not going to be a work. Double S laughing along. Unbroken 1010 saying, let's see how it goes. I was watching Chandler on Embedded. He's real smart taking the sub a few months ago and let him get used to Abu Dhabi a second time. It's an interesting one. And, you know, it's going to be a weird time tomorrow night, but it's going to be a fun time tomorrow night. Hopefully you guys enjoyed yourselves. On Philip Brown's, if a British-Brazilian dude was in the UFC, it'd be the most marketable. And is 20 too late to start training MMA? I don't think so. If you have a martial arts base, at some point it might help you. You know, we've seen mixed martial artists fight into their 40s or 50s. We've seen fighters break. Greg Hardy is fighting in the UFC, and the only reason he's fighting in the UFC is because he was an NFL All-Pro. But as the dog whines, because my roommate left, it must mean the sands of our hourglass and the days of our lives have come to an end, and it is time for us to come to an end as well. One last time for the people in the back, follow us across social media at MMA Mania and Bloody Elbow. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe to this video. In all of our videos, if you haven't subscribed to Combat Culture yet on YouTube, what are you doing? What the fuck are you doing? Do it already. But be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. If you haven't liked already, I'm going to yell at you. TW, good show, bro. Thank you. Your conspiracy theories are fakakta and cockamamie, but I'm glad to have been here with you guys. This has been a fun time. Let's see if we can do this again. If you want this to be a common thing after the weigh-ins or just a weekly show that I do, I used to do a podcast called the 2-Point Deduction for MMA Mania, but I'd love to do a live show because I love talking with you guys. I love talking shit about MMA, so I'm definitely down to do it. So let me know if you like this by following me on Twitter at mryanconsulting, liking this video, commenting, and subscribing, because that's how our bosses know that Daddy is doing a good job. And Daddy needs to pay for things. I need money. So help me get money. And if we get money, I get merch, and I can sell you guys things, and then you can wear my face on things. And I feel like that's what everybody really wants. Isn't that what everybody really wants? So, on that note, check us out across social media. Be sure to stay connected to MMA Mania and Bloody Elbow all day today for the latest updates heading into UFC 257. Be sure to follow my buddy Dave Mannion, D-Mannion _, that's MANYUN _ on Twitter. And follow me on Twitter at mryanconsulting. Drew Jen saying Dustin's already rehydrated to 170. Well, yeah, and where do you think Conor's going to be hydrated at? All right, guys, I gotta go. My dog is telling me to go fuck myself. So I'm going to say I love you. I'm thankful for you. And we'll see you right back here tomorrow night for UFC 257. It's McGregor and Poirier. It's Chandler and Hooker. It's gonna be a happening. It's gonna be the motherfucking Thunderdome. And watch it along with us. I will be drunk. You will be there. And we'll see you tomorrow right here on Combat Culture.